Many years ago, in my hometown's ancient town, there was a blacksmith shop where an old blacksmith lived. Since very few people needed custom ironwork anymore, he started selling items like iron pots and chains in his shop. His business methods were extremely old-fashioned and traditional, and the old man had a very peculiar temperament. He would sit inside the shop, with his goods displayed outside, not calling out to passers-by and not bargaining. In the evenings, he wouldn't even close his shop. Whenever you passed by his shop, you would see him lying on a bamboo chair inside, with a mysterious purple clay teapot on a small wooden table next to him. His daily income was meager, just enough to cover his meals and tea. As he had grown old, he no longer needed extra possessions, and he was content with what he had. One day, an antique dealer passing by the shop noticed the old blacksmith and, by chance, saw the exquisite purple clay teapot. Its deep purple-black color intrigued him, and upon closer inspection, he identified it as a masterpiece crafted by a renowned artisan from the Qing dynasty. The dealer was overjoyed and offered to buy the teapot for 100,000 RMB. The old blacksmith was first shocked, but then he refused because this teapot was handed down from his grandfather, and 3 generations of their family had used it while working at the forge, with their sweat and hard work imbued into the teapot. Although he didn't sell the teapot, after the dealer left, the old blacksmith experienced his first sleepless night in years. He had used this teapot for nearly 60 years, always considering it an ordinary vessel. Now someone wanted to buy it for 100,000 RMB. In the past, he would lie back in his chair and relax, placing the teapot on the small table. But now, at the slightest noise, he would sit up to check if the teapot was still there. This discomfort was hard for him to tolerate, and what's worse, as the townspeople learned of his valuable antique teapot, they came knocking on his door, inquiring about other treasures. Some even started borrowing money from him, and a few tried to sneak into his house in search of hidden valuables. The old blacksmith's life was completely disrupted. When the antique dealer returned with 200,000 RMB in cash for the second time, the old blacksmith couldn't sit still any longer. He called in some neighbors, picked up a sledgehammer, and smashed the purple clay teapot into pieces right in front of everyone. Soon after, the old blacksmith's life returned to its usual tranquility, and it's said that he lived to be over 100 years old. At this point, you might think the most thrilling part of the story was when the old blacksmith raised the sledgehammer. What fell to the ground was not just a pile of fragments and a stack of banknotes, but endless desires, greed, and obsession. Did he really just give it all up for 200,000? Was he so composed? No. When faced with such temptation, nobody can remain unaffected. The truth is, the teapot he smashed was a fake one, and he sold the real one privately to that dealer. In this way, he earned 200,000 and put an end to outsiders and his children's covetousness. It was this retirement fund that allowed him to live to 100 years old. Many times, what people see may not necessarily be the truth. Some things are only surface appearances, and sometimes what we see with our own eyes may not be the reality.